Good morning everyone, and welcome to a 35k moderate ride. As you've no doubt noticed, I'm having to do a voiceover for this ride because the weather forecast was not good, and I'm wearing a waterproof jacket and the GoPro is in its waterproof housing, and you can't get any usable audio whatsoever once it's in its housing. So I'm afraid this is just going to be a voiceover one. So I chose an interesting route this time, one through a few different sites in southeast London, starting off here in Deptford Market. It's actually one of London's busiest markets, and it's been in Deptford High Street for centuries. London's first railway from London to Greenwich was built through Deptford in 1836, and Christopher Marlowe, the playwright, was murdered nearby. Makes you want to go and visit, doesn't it? Quite why I planned a route through a market, one of London's busiest, I do not know, but I thought it would be an interesting thing to see along the way. But as you can see, it was a bit of a mistake, but it's certainly colourful. We're going to be visiting some other interesting London landmarks too, so keep watching the video and I hope you enjoy it. So here we are in Greenwich. On the left hand side you can see the masts of the Cutty Sark, an old clipper ship built on the River Clyde in Glasgow in 1869 for the Jock Willis shipping line. She was one of the last tea clippers to be built and one of the fastest, coming at the end of a long period of design development which halted as sailing ships gave way to steam propulsion. So coming up on the right hand side is the Greenwich Royal Naval College, which regularly features in major film productions. In fact, so many films have been shot at Sir Christopher Wren's riverside masterpiece that Empire magazine called them the most popular filming location in the world. Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Les Miserables and Cinderella, and even Thor Dark World are just a few of the blockbusters filmed here recently. So this is Greenwich Millennium Village, or GMV, and it's a modern development on an urban village model. It was designed by architects Ralph Erskine, and it was part of a regeneration of the whole brownfield site of East Greenwich Gasworks. It's just south of the what was called Millennium Dome and is now called the O2. Coming up you can see what's cleverly named the Emirates Air Line, which is a network of cable cars across the River Thames, and it was built by Doppelmayr with sponsorship from the airline Emirates. The service opened on the 28th of June 2012 and is operated by Transport for London. In addition to transport across the river, the service advertises a unique view of London. The duration of a single crossing is 10 minutes, which is reduced to 5 minutes in rush hour as the service speed is increased. And I've been on it myself, and it's certainly worth a go, although either side there's really not much to do or see, but it's interesting nonetheless. Further along the Thames path out towards the east, it becomes more and more industrial, as you can see from this. I think it's cement works or something similar, so really not quite as pretty as Greenwich and some of the other things, but It's reflective of the historical usage of the area. So on the left-hand side of the picture you can see the Thames Barrier. This was built to prevent the floodplain of most of Greater London from being flooded by exceptionally high tides and storm surges moving up from the North Sea. It has been operational since 1982, and when needed it is closed during high tide. At low tide it can be opened to restore the river's flow towards the sea. This is just another quick glimpse of the barrier. Unfortunately, the railings obscure most of the view. This is the Royal Arsenal at Woolwich, and it used to carry out armaments manufacture, ammunition proofing and explosives research for the British Armed Forces. This is a sculpture by Peter Burke and it's called Assembly. So at this point of the ride I was supposed to arrive at a bike park, a place with various paths for mountain biking, road biking, all that kind of stuff. Thought it sounded interesting and it might be a place I could check out and potentially take my kids there at some point. But for some reason, when I got to where Commute thought it was, I found myself in this East London housing estate, which wasn't quite what I expected. But it was about halfway, so it was time to stop, refuel, have a drink, have an energy bar, and then time to make my way home. The directions on the way back were actually kind of confusing. There were lots of different ways and paths, and I found myself on this elevated route called the High Line. There were a couple of guys there who seemed to be staring at me quite a lot, and I was a bit worried, but actually I think they were just concerned that I was a bit lost, and they were very friendly in the end. So I managed to find my way back onto the route I needed and start heading home. So it was actually quite a warm day, and with such a busy route, different roads, different turnings, lots of stuff going on all the time, I didn't really find there were too many convenient places to stop and have a drink. And so at this point I just thought it's important to stop, make sure I'm hydrated. The last thing I need is to make myself unwell. So remember kids, rehydrate. So this was actually quite a tough little climb. It wouldn't be so bad in isolation, but given that I'd already done about 30k or so, It was the last thing I wanted at this stage in the ride, but luckily all of those hill reps and all that training really started to pay off, and whilst it was, you know, hard work, I managed it perfectly fine. So this is Woolwich Town Centre. I've never been into Woolwich before, and they had a lovely gospel choir singing and a very shiny, fancy looking brand new Tesco's there as well. So actually nicer than I expected.
In love with you.
So as suspected, the GoPro battery didn't last the full distance, but you're not missing too much. I'll stick up some stats on the screen now to show you what the ride was like, but it felt absolutely fine. It was nice to see a few interesting sights, and nice that the training is definitely paying off. So thanks a lot for watching today, thanks for coming along on the ride, and I'll be back soon. Thanks, bye.